we looked at, we talked about different aspects regarding it. It's a story about salvation. It's a story of redemption. That's what it ultimately is for us. Everything that takes place, especially from Genesis 3 to the end of Revelation, is what's known as redemptive history. That's an important term again. Redemptive history. And what that means is just the word, redemption. It has to do with saving or being saved from sin, rescuing sinners from the consequence of their sin by making a payment, redemption. So the Bible has to do with that. And the word history, how that's used, it takes place in time. That's it. God's plan of redemption unfolding through the ages. That's the scripture. He has a plan. Things just, as much as they might seem to be haphazard at times, and why does this happen? He has a plan. He has a decree. He is sovereign. He's working that out. Okay, so things happen for a reason in His providence. Good things and the bad things happens. But the structure of the Bible really is what it's about. It's about saving sinners from sin and from hell. That's a story of redemption. So just a real basic outline that you have under the story of redemption. You have creation. God created the world. He creates man in His own image. Everything's good. It's real good. This is just a real Cliff's Notes version of redemptive history. Man was in perfect, unbroken fellowship with Him. Amen. That would be cool if it remained that way. Unfortunately, we have the fall. Mankind falls into sin. That breaks our fellowship with God. We're now under the curse and wrath of God. You have to understand that. It's really important to get that. That we're in the image of God, and in a sense we're God's children because we're created in His image, but we're fallen. That image is shattered and broken. We sin against Him. We're rebellious against Him. We refuse Him. See? And so we're under His wrath. They were driven out of the garden, out of that direct fellowship with the Lord. We live in a sin-cursed world at enmity with God. We're subject to all the miseries of this life, even to the pains of hell forever. Understand? That's the predicament. Now here's the redemption, the promise of the Savior. We'll talk about that early on in Genesis 3:15. And the Old Testament is the story of how God's promise comes to fulfillment. You have to understand that. Every time, what they had at Jesus' time, and for a while after that, was the Old Testament. Jesus said, hey, Moses, the law, the prophets, they wrote about me. It's me that they wrote about. Okay? The gospel's there. The hope is there. And you can see Christ in the Old Testament throughout. And the picture just gets wider and wider and more beautiful till the fullness of time. So you had types and shadows of the Old Testament, like the temple, like the sacrifices, like the feasts, different people, different events pointed to the redemption of Christ. So they look forward by faith in the Old Testament. You can never take that out or separate. It finds its fullness in the New Testament. Jesus lives a perfect, sinless life. He dies on the cross as a substitute, atoning for sin. He's buried. He's raised from the dead on the third day. He's ascended into heaven. And then the consummation, He will return to judge the living and the dead. Sin will be put away forever. New heaven, new earth. Eternity in His presence. Uninterrupted, perfect fellowship once again with Him for those who believe. Okay, we can go home. That's the story. That's it. You got it? The history of redemption. That's real important to get because the Bible hangs together. Please understand that from beginning to end. Every part of it's inspired and important. So, what I want to do now, if you have your Bibles, and we've supplied Bibles. I know this group. I know most of you have your Bibles, but you're free to keep those Bibles, give them away. If not, we'll just put them on our table for Sunday morning. But I do want you to turn with me in the Bible to Genesis chapter 1, because here's where the story begins, obviously. It begins at the beginning. So, let's go to chapter 1, and I'm going to read the chapter, and then we're just going to go highlight different aspects of creation. I hope this will be helpful to you as well. So, beginning, Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. God saw that the light was good. God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. There was evening, and there was morning the first day. Take note of that repetition. And God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. God called the expanse heaven, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered into one place. Let the dry land appear. And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. God saw that it was good. God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit, which in their seed, each according to its kind on the earth. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their own kinds, and trees bearing fruit, in which their seed, each according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, the third day. God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years. And let them be lights in the expanse of heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. God set them in the expanse of heavens to give light on earth, to rule over the day and over the night, to separate the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. There was evening and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, let the water swarm with swarms of living creatures. Let the birds fly above the earth across the expanse of heavens. So God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, be fruitful, multiply, fill the waters and the sea. Let the birds multiply on earth. And there was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things, beasts of the earth according to their kinds. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, over the livestock, over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. God blessed them. God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. God saw everything he had made, and behold, it was very good. There was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Amen. I'll just end our reading there. And just very quickly to go through this. Remember, this is just basic. There's so much here. We could spend weeks, literally, maybe months on everything that I just read, explaining and going through and seeing the richness of it. But we'll only take a few minutes here this morning to kind of run it down. First thing that you want to know, that I want to note to you, it's in your notes, is that God just assumed as existing. We already talked about his self-existent nature. He always was. So Genesis just assumes that God has always been. The first 5 verses, they introduce his created work. And it's very interesting. The word for create, bara, is a word in which God alone is the subject. So God alone is creating and making. It's not that he made something and then they make something and something. Initially, he makes all things. He alone is the subject. So in other words, there were no raw materials. Like when we make something, Jerry, you got to have something to make. No wood, you're going to make. God knows nothing. That's the point. He spoke creation into existence. Ex nihilo. The word, another interesting fact, the word for God, Elohim, this is just a little, we talked about the Trinity already, this is a little hint towards that. We won't get too deeply into this, but just know that that's the plural form of the word, but it's translated as singular in the singular. So get that. Just like we saw in the Gospels,
baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Here the name is plural, Elohim for God, and yet it's in singular, translated into singular. So it gives us a clue to the nature. Even, I would say, the persons of the Trinity. It's very slight there. In verse 2, we're introduced to the Spirit who's hovering over the water, part of the Godhead. You see the sequence of evening and morning. Again, there's no reason not to believe this word, yom, is just used throughout the Bible for a typical 24-hour day period. It doesn't mean long periods of time. It can, but used in a regular way throughout Scripture just means 24-hour regular day. Also, take note, we talked about general revelation. Natural revelation keeps every man accountable. Guess where it started? Right here. Why? Because God created it. He made it. It points to Him. Right? So this is the beginning of what we would say natural or general revelation. It begins here. It reflects His glory over darkness. And we can get a lot deeper into that. We can go to John 1:1 and talk about how in the beginning the Word was there, He overcomes the darkness, but we won't do that. We'll say that for another time. Maybe Christianity 2.0, but I'd like to get into that, but just know that this is the beginning of God's victory also over darkness and death as well. And this is just a cool little fact. The great lights, the sun, the moon, and the stars, they weren't created till day 4. So what's that tell us right away? What's that saying to you? Think about that for a minute. It talks about light being there. Let there be light. There was that light that was there. But it wasn't until the 4th day, and this is very deliberate, that the sun, the moon, and the stars were created. Why is that, do you think? Does anybody have a quick answer, like just a thought on that? If you want to. No? That's okay. It just really quickly just shows, because what do people say? Without the sun, without the moon, no way. Without the stars, no way. You can't have life. What? God says no. You can't. These things are dependent on me. I created them. The sun, the moon, and the stars I know by name. That's a really cool little tidbit fact. And I think very deliberate. These that we are so dependent upon. Take the sun away, we're not here. The moon, everything's off, right? They have to be here for life to exist. They're under God's dominion. So it's placed not till that day these things were created to govern. Okay? Very interesting. That's just a little insight there. And also what I want you to note about this, about our God, how He lovingly, we read these, we just kind of go through it. I read it real fast. We kind of go through, here's what He did. Do you know what He was doing? He was preparing a place for us in particular. Those created in His image. And it's done, if you read through this slowly, and how it repeats and what He says, it's very tender, It's a real tender way of making preparation, giving us everything that we could ever need. And I've used this illustration before if you're part of our congregation, you've heard this, but it's like a young couple expecting their first child. What do? Just throw them in a room? No, you go to the nursery, you make it beautiful. Here's the crib, here's the bassinet, here's the room, and it's decorated, and you're preparing it for them, lovingly, anticipating. You're going to have everything you need in this room. That's the force behind this, as we read this, that He's lovingly preparing everything that we need, on different levels too, not just in a practical way. Like I said, you can have a practical room if your parents are going to move in with you or whatever. You can say, okay, live in this room, we'll hang a curtain and put some paint on the wall. It could be just like in a practical way that you can use it, but also in a way that's very loving and we appreciate it. You really love someone, you're going to make sure you have everything you need, everything practical. You have the bathroom over there, the sink over there, the bed. We'll make sure you have that. And it's also going to be done with quality and care because we love you. So you have that appreciation too. So it's that practical and beauty. And that's Genesis 1 up to this point. God just prepared lovingly His creation for us. And then He comes to the highest creation. And it changes. Because now it says, let there be, let there be, let there be. What does He say when it comes to His highest creation? To those created in His image. Let us make. See the change there? You see the switch? It said, let us make man in our image. Also, the plurality. Let us make an R. What's that? Even from early on, you have a clue towards the plurality within the Godhead, the Trinity. So it's not just the one. That's what we're doing. So he says, one God, but three distinct persons. You see the persons there. So, what's it mean to be made in the image of God? And this is a big deal for us today again. All this stuff, when you think about it on a practical basis, or when you talk to your friends, neighbors, whatever, co-workers, there's objections to all these things that we're looking to and talking about. What's so great about man? People care more about helpless animals than they do about people. Right? In this day and age? No, that's a reversal of God's order. That's not the way it's to be. We're made in His image. That's why life is precious. That's why if you're a Christian, of course we care about the animals. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we care about life. That's why we stand on the front lines of the abortion clinics and say no. Doesn't mean we don't believe there's not justice and people deserve certain things as a consequence for their sin, but we are pro-life. Oh, no. If somebody's old, let's just put them out. They're weighing us. No, we're not a culture of death. We're a culture of life because we're created in the image of God. That's what we stand on. That's the foundation. You can talk to all kinds of people. Why do you want life? Why do you want to preserve life? Oh, because this, because that. But that changes, right? Minds have been changed about abortion, about the elderly, about the sick. People change. Oh, I guess maybe you're right. Maybe they are better off dead. But we know that life reflects the image of God. So as Christians, we say, we're made in His image. And what separates us from the rest of creation? There's a list there. Just think about this. Think about some of the differences. This isn't exhaustive by any stretch, but just things to think about. What makes us the image of God? Well, first of all, we have spirit, soul, this immaterial aspect to us. That's taught plainly throughout Scripture. Now, you might be trichotomist, you might think body, spirit, and soul. We won't get into that, or just body and soul. That's an open-hand issue that we could talk about later. But we all know that there's an immaterial aspect being to us. There's a soul that we have. There's a sense of eternity and self-awareness. You don't see this in the rest of nature, the rest of creation, because people are putting us on the same level as animals, or even, sometimes raising animals above us in certain ways. There's a difference here. Morality. We do have a sense of right. And all this reflects God and the nature of God and the glory of God. I'm not saying we're God, but it reflects the nature of God. We're made in His image, the image of God. Okay? We know right from wrong, justice from injustice. That's why we get angry at injustice. We instinctively do. That's why we know something's good and we know something's bad. Worship. I talked to this earlier. We all worship. We all acknowledge something. We all reverence. We all serve something or someone, don't we? We're made that way. That's the image of God. Knowledge, rationality, conscience, reason, all these things point to the image of God and show that. God who's all-knowing. God who reasons perfectly. Okay. Complex language. We write, we read. Abstract thinking. Logic, math. Some of us anyway. Right? Not me. We design, science, medicine, again, business. Even with the medicine, we're concerned about life. So we can't help it. I tell my doctor all the time, Dr. Rubin, our doctor, says, you don't know, but you want to get us back to the garden before the fall or the consummation. That's what you're doing. That's why you do the things you do. You might not know that, but at the deepest level, you're reflecting the image of God because God is about life. That's why you're trying to save life. That's why you're trying to advance in this way. See, we're made, we can't escape it. We can deny it, we can suppress it, we can rationalize different ways, but you can't escape the image of God, even in the things you do, the way you think. Any profession you want, anywhere you want to go. And you're going to see that image of God. Or the fall, the definite fall. But, so medicine, business, we design, we build, we discover, we invent things. It shows what we made in the image of God. Even with the placement of our planet, there's a show, it's called What Planet? The Privileged Planet. And it's not done by Christians. These are non-Christians. Not necessarily Christians. And they talk about even the earth itself and where it's at, how it's situated, and all those things about the beauty of it. But only from Earth can you look out and see the rest. If you're on any other planet in our solar system, you can't, because of the gases, because of everything and where they're positioned, you can't see anything. Only from Earth can you see beyond the Earth and discover and see the stars and the sun. Yeah. Check that out sometime. See that all these things. We have appreciation for. This sets us apart. We can appreciate beauty. We appreciate different things. We have an appreciation for certain things, and even a disdain for other things. But that makes us image bearers of God. That's why God made everything so beautiful. That's why you can look at all the different kinds of flowers, all the different kinds of plants, and appreciate them. All the different kinds of animals, the different species. Just God, that's a gift from Him. We can appreciate that beauty. And give glory to Him. See, this is insightful. This is the image of God. This is why we do this. All right? Art, music, poetry, the different genres that we think about. This is the image of God. The artistic. Again, that's reflected in creation. Right? All these things. The complex emotions. The joy, the sorrow, the love, the hate, the thankfulness, the jealousy. All these things. Again, a lot of this is twisted. Mind you, we live in a fallen world now, but this is what makes us image bearers of God. Dignity, honor, respect, regard for. It's not, you don't see these things in the world. People try to put animals up with us, or we're just more, we're image bearers, we're distinct of creation. We love all of God's creation, but we're distinct. Why? Because we're made in His image. That's a special place. Let us make man in our image. Institutions. We're going to be talking about this. Marriage, family. These are institutions that God has given us. Government, laws to keep order, to punish wrongdoing, to keep people in line. This is all, God's a God of order. God's a God of structure. God's a God of justice. That's why we have government. That's why we have laws. We're image bearers of God. We can't help it. Sort of, but we can't help it. That's good stuff. I like that a lot. That is what God's given us. We learn that from being image bearers of God. We can go so deep into this again. We're just scratching the surface. We're taking that high view of all, just flying over all these things. Look at verse 28. This is what's called the cultural mandate. This is another part of God. God is over everything, over all things, over us, over all His creation, over the universe, over all things. But He's given us, His image bearers, dominion. That's the cultural mandate. Look at verse 28 in our passage. And God blessed them. God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, over every living thing that moves on the earth. I've given you every plant. He goes on from there. That's what's known. This is important for you to get. That's called the cultural mandate. This is why we are responsible for things around us. Now, we distort this again. What dominion means, though, is to rule on the behalf of another. We use the resources. We steward what He's given to us to His glory. So our attitudes, in other words, to have dominion means this. Our attitudes and our actions towards that which He's given to us in creation are based on being image bearers. Okay? Are based on His direction and His will. That's it. That's what dominion is. Now this is all mixed up today. Dominion, number one, doesn't mean domination. That's a big deal. So as Christians, we don't go around doing whatever we please. Even with the environment, there's such a big move. People are worshiping the earth big time these days. All the environmental movements, I'm not saying they're all bad inherently in and of themselves. They have good things about them, noble goals in certain ways. But for so many people, that becomes the end all. It's not the end all for us. See, dominion doesn't mean domination. Like we can do whatever we please. That's actually an evolutionary thought. You know that? King of the jungle. I'm at the top of the food chain. We can do what we want. This is ours. All the resources, whatever we want to use, how we want to use it. That's not the Christian perspective at all. Christian perspective is God saying, here, this is for you to steward as I direct you to do that. So it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean domination. We're called to be stewards and care for creation, to the responsible use of resources. To be, we can't hunt. But people say, no, you can't hunt at all because that's bad. No, God says you could use the resources. But you can't dominate. You can't make, kill to extinction, right? You use them in a responsible way. I gave these for you this way. There's one person on a show, they had fish, and she wouldn't eat fish because she felt sorry for the fish. She was crying. So, that was hard for her to do in that way. So it doesn't mean domination, and it doesn't mean that we give creation higher honor than God, as I was just saying it. We don't exalt earth or nature itself. It's under God. We're stewards of it. Mankind, you're in trouble when mankind is seen as the problem. We're not the problem, necessarily. We can be at times when we need to be focused on solution. Another creation ordinance. This is in chapter 2, Genesis, is the Sabbath day. I'll go over this very quickly. Chapter 2, God created the earth in 6 days. And what did he do on the 7th day? He rested. Very important for us. I think as Christians we've forgotten this aspect in terms of God's goodness towards us. The Sabbath is built into creation, right? It's not something that just came with the law or the Ten Commandments. This is something that goes back to creation. It's a creation ordinance. It's ordained in creation. It's for His glory and for our good. So that 7th day, He rested. By the way, the concept for the week comes from the Bible. These are the days. And 7 days fit in perfectly. All the others are month, year. That's solar and lunar. Right? The seasons, the days are from Scripture. But it says, He worked for 6 days. He rested on the 7th. That's a pattern for us. That's what He's given to us, an example for us. He made that Sabbath day holy. He set it apart for worship and for rest. That's that one day. Today we don't have anything like that, do we? Some of you will not remember the blue laws, right? Remember the blue laws on Sunday? What did you guys do? Nothing. There was nothing to do. And that means you can take that day, you can take that day to rest, hang out, see family. If you're a worshiper, you worship. That was built in for us. Now today, what's the busiest day for shopping? Pretty much Sunday. What's the busiest day for games? Sunday. What's that take people away from church and rest? Because they're not at work. Can't go to church. Don't have time to rest. I'm just working on, we're such an overextended society. He built this in for our goodness. It's also beautifully symbolic. It pictures our rest for all eternity. And we can get deeper into this if we want. So quickly in chapter 2, he talks about chapter 1 is a big picture of creation. Chapter 2 focuses in more on the relationship between creature and creator. So in verse 4, I'm not going to read the verses, you could do that, but we're introduced to God in a more personal way. Elohim is used in chapter 1. Yahweh, which is God's personal name, is brought forth here. This is the I am of the Lord. So it's brought forth there. Verse 7 details the creation of man, that he is formed from the ground. This is what he did. He picked him from the ground, formed man, breathed life into him. Now that takes faith. People say, you believe that? That's a silly story. Okay, what do you believe? Something just happened out of nothing, over zillions of years or millions of years, somehow this arose out of this primordial ooze. Does it take faith to believe what we believe? Yeah. But what takes more faith to believe? And also, we're created from the ground, you know that. And when we die, we're created from dust. When we die, eventually we return to dust. So we have that there. Verse 9 is an important verse. We're introduced to 2 special trees. There's the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And check that out. Keep that in mind, because that sets Adam up for a choice that he would have to make. Either depend on God and His revealed will, or self-sufficiency, because God said, I've given you every tree in the garden that you can eat from. Everything you want, everything's out there. But there's one tree you can't eat from. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because when you do that, guess what? That day you will die. That's there. That's set before him. Verse 15, chapter 2. This is another creation ordinance. This is what we call work. This is why work's a good thing. This is why we do. That's why we love our jobs. We do it to the glory of God. This is a creation ordinance. It begins with God. Why do people work in the first place? Oh, to make money, to make a living. Well, that's true. But you really work because it's ordained by God. And when you don't work, life doesn't work out that way. Unless you get on welfare, you get all the benefits. But for the most part, you don't work, you don't eat, you struggle, it's tough. You know people that are lazy, right? Work's good. God gives us that all honest work is good work. But again, it's a creation ordinance. It's not our identity. It's not the end all. It's part of God's image bearing of God, but it's His ordinance. So we make provision for family, for ourselves. And then verse 16 and 17, I want you to look at that, because this is what's really important for us as well. It's called the covenant of life by some. And here's what the Lord says. I do want to read this. The Lord God commanded man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For in that day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Okay, that's what's known as the covenant of life. You know what that is? That's a test of obedience. You're going to listen and obey me, or are you going to be self-sufficient and go your own way? That's set up for them. Who are the parties? God and Adam, who represents us. Adam represents mankind. The prohibition is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The promise is an implied promise. So look, if you don't eat it, we're going to continue on in this fellowship. But in the day you do eat that, you will surely die. That's the penalty that's threatened there. And that's spiritual death, as you'll see, as well as physically dying. So we all die. That shows that we're in broken fellowship with God. It shows that we are sinners. Verses 18 through 25, that's another creation ordinance. We're going to be doing a sermon series on the creation ordinances because we're living in a time where everything is thrown out the window. Like I talked about, with the Sabbath, with work, with dominion, with marriage. So that's what we're going to look at. This is a foundation for it. This is why we get married. This is why it's a good thing. Because God perfectly meets Adam's need for companionship. He fashions woman, and He takes her. Where does He take her from? His rib. Not from front, not from behind. That's important. Because there's equality in the sight of God. So He doesn't take her from the front of man, so there's no feminism. Oh man, you're just over there. He doesn't take her from behind the man. That's chauvinism. That's manhood. He takes her from the side. And that's important. That's a good picture of true companionship, which marriage speaks to. That oneness in diversity. Okay? It's not one or sameness. It's oneness with diversity. Unconditional love, mutual dependence, procreation, be fruitful and multiply, intimacy. It provides the true context for sex, which is such a big deal today in our society. Everybody's doing it, whenever they want to do it, when they want to do it. Don't tell me I can't. God provides a context for it. People say, you Christians are so stuffy. Not at all. But in the context of marriage. Not outside of marriage. That's what He made it for. Because in marriage, it expresses that oneness, that love, that devotion. It's intended for pleasure and for joy between husband and wife. It gives security, it gives closeness, and it brings forth children as well. So, God made us to be together. He stresses equality. He establishes the context for a family as well. So, this is what we can say as Christians. We go right back to the book of Genesis, the first 2 chapters. We can pretty much explain how it works and how it ought to work. And when you do this, it works best. This is where you have it. So sin has distorted all of these things, the good gifts that God has given us. Think about all the broken marriages. What's that do? Does that help a family home? No. Sex outside of marriage, all these things. He establishes the context for the family. He says, be fruitful, multiply. And He provides structure, order for society within the family. Guess what? You take that out of society, the structure, the order, the marriage, how it's intended to be, what do you have? Brothel is what we have in our society today. Just chaos. Upside down, all over the place. hurting people. This is the American family. This is who we are now. So you don't have that stability. You don't have that love. You don't have that structure. It's a reversal of those things. It also provides a lineage, a legacy, right? You want to pass it on. Not today. Same sex or this over here. There's no. Where's it going to go? Where's it going to be? Where's that heritage? Where's that lineage? Where's it at? God lovingly prepared all that we need to survive. He created man in His image, who He had unbroken fellowship with. What went wrong? We're going to talk about that next.